What if I told you the Pentagon just dropped hundreds of previously classified UFO files, and instead of explaining them, they basically said, yeah, we don't know what these things are either. No cap. On May 8, 2026, the Department of Defense released one of the biggest UAP data dumps in modern history. Over 20 military videos, hundreds of technical reports, FLIR sensor logs, pilot testimonies, and cases so bizarre that even government analysts had to label them unresolved. And some of these cases, they sound straight out of science fiction. We're talking glowing metallic orbs flying near military bases, objects making impossible 90-degree turns at high speed, orange spheres described by federal agents as looking like the eye of Sauron, and secret whistleblower claims about a hidden program called Immaculate Constellation. But here's the craziest part. The government didn't close the case. They handed the mystery to the public. So tonight, we're diving deep into the Pentagon's 2026 UAP disclosure, the physics-defying sightings, the alleged hidden programs, and why this entire thing might completely change how we understand technology, intelligence, and reality itself. And trust me, the deeper you go into these files, the weirder it gets. So let's start with what actually happened. On May 8, 2026, the Pentagon began releasing a massive archive of unresolved UAP files, what the internet instantly nicknamed the Great UAP Dump. Now, officially, this was framed as a transparency initiative, but politically, this was pressure finally boiling over. Congress had been demanding answers for years, public interest was exploding online, and President Donald Trump heavily pushed the release publicly, posting things like, "What the hell is going on?" Which honestly, that line alone perfectly captured the vibe of the entire disclosure. Because instead of giving definitive answers, the government basically shifted the burden of interpretation onto the public. Like, here are the files. You figure it out. And that strategy matters, because it creates distance between the military and the conclusions people might draw. That's where AARO comes in, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. This office was created in 2022 specifically to investigate UAPs scientifically. But here's where things get interesting. In earlier reports, AARO claimed there was no evidence of extraterrestrials or recovered alien technology. Then suddenly, in 2026, they release hundreds of cases they still cannot explain. That contradiction, that's the engine driving this entire story. And just wait until you hear what some of these unresolved objects were actually doing. Because one category of sightings kept showing up over and over and over again. Metallic orbs. And according to the files, these things were showing up near some of the most sensitive military locations in America. This is where the story starts feeling genuinely unsettling. The most commonly reported objects in the files weren't classic flying saucers. They were smooth metallic spheres. No wings, no exhaust, no visible propulsion. Completely silent. And according to multiple reports, nearly 360 sightings happened within just a few miles of US military bases. Think about that. If unidentified objects repeatedly appear near restricted military airspace, that's not just a conspiracy theory anymore. That's a national security issue. But then, things escalated. One report from CENTCOM described a formation of around 12 metallic orbs skimming over the ocean at high speed. And the formation was so precise that from a distance, it appeared cube-shaped. Now here's where it gets wild. Infrared systems reportedly detected these objects as white hot, meaning they were emitting massive amounts of heat or energy. But despite that energy output, there was no visible propulsion system. No jet wash, no rotor noise, nothing. And according to sensor logs, some of these objects performed instant 90-degree turns at speed. Now, if you know even basic physics, that should be impossible. A human pilot would be crushed instantly under those G-forces. A conventional aircraft would rip itself apart. So either the data is wrong, the sensors malfunctioned, or these objects operate using physics we do not currently understand. And honestly, that's the exact reason this topic refuses to die. Quick question for you guys. Do you think these are advanced military drones? Experimental black projects? Foreign technology? Or something genuinely non-human? Drop your theory in the comments right now. I'm genuinely curious where everyone stands on this. Because the next case made even trained federal agents question reality. One of the strangest reports came from federal law enforcement agents operating in the western United States in 2023. And the object they described looked like the Eye of Sauron from Lord of the Rings. Not kidding. Witnesses described an orange glowing orb hovering silently near the ground. No sound, no visible structure, just this intense glowing sphere radiating heat. Thermal systems reportedly showed it as super hot. Then, suddenly, it accelerated away at extreme speed. But that wasn't even the weirdest part. According to the report, the orb released smaller red objects from itself, almost like probes, like a larger craft deploying smaller units for reconnaissance. And remember, these weren't random internet witnesses. These were trained federal agents, people trained specifically to observe details under pressure. Now, does that automatically mean aliens? No. But it does make the case significantly harder to dismiss. And just when the Pentagon thought public attention couldn't get any crazier, a whistleblower entered the chat. This is the part where the story goes from unexplained sightings to allegations of secret hidden programs operating completely outside public oversight. And this next section? Yeah, it's where things get real spicy. According to whistleblower claims and investigative journalists, there may be a deeply classified program called Immaculate Constellation, supposedly created around 2017, and allegedly designed to collect and isolate the most sensitive UAP evidence away from normal congressional oversight. Now, obviously, huge disclaimer here, these claims are not officially verified, but the allegations include multi-spectrum imagery, full-motion video, satellite tracking, and reports of so-called reproduction vehicles. Basically, human-made craft allegedly inspired by recovered non-human technology. Now, if true, that changes everything, because it would suggest there are two completely different narratives happening at once, the public-facing version and the classified version. One report even describes a triangular craft hovering silently over the ocean before rotating and vanishing. No sonic boom, no visible propulsion, nothing. And this is exactly why public trust around the UAP issue has become so fractured, because every new disclosure raises another question. How much is actually being hidden? Now, to keep this fair and objective, we also have to talk about the Pentagon's skeptical explanations. Because not every UFO video is a spacecraft. Former AARO officials have argued many famous sightings were caused by sensor distortions, autofocus issues, infrared bloom effects, balloons, or optical artifacts. And to be fair, some cases absolutely were explainable. There's even footage that initially looked extraordinary, but later turned out to be ordinary aircraft viewed through distorted imaging systems. And honestly, that's important, because if investigators can debunk weak cases, then the truly unresolved cases become even more interesting. That's the real tension here. The mystery survives despite intense scrutiny, not because of a lack of scrutiny. And one specific capability keeps showing up in the files over and over again: transmedium travel. Some reports describe objects moving seamlessly between space, atmosphere, and water, without slowing down. Think about that for a second. A submarine can't become a fighter jet. A fighter jet can't instantly become an underwater vehicle. But according to these reports, some UAPs allegedly can. No visible transition, no performance loss. And military observers repeatedly describe these objects as evasive, meaning they appeared aware they were being tracked. That detail is huge,
Because random atmospheric phenomena do not actively evade observation. Intelligence systems do. Which raises another uncomfortable possibility. What if these objects aren't visitors, but surveillance systems? And if that's true, whose are they? Okay, I need you guys to answer this honestly. What's more terrifying? That these objects might be non-human? Or that another country may already possess technology decades ahead of everyone else? Because either answer is kind of insane.
Here's the biggest shift happening right now. For decades, the government either denied these stories completely or buried them. But now, the strategy has changed. Instead of saying nothing exists, they're saying we don't fully know what exists. That's a massive difference. And by releasing the files without definitive explanations, the government essentially turned the internet into a giant decentralized investigation team. Researchers, pilots, scientists, content creators, regular people. Everyone is now analyzing the same evidence together in real time. And honestly, that might be the real disclosure. Not aliens, not spacecraft, but the admission that there are genuine phenomena in our skies that even advanced governments cannot fully explain. And once that idea enters public consciousness, it kind of lives there forever, rent-free. So where does all this leave us? The 2026 Pentagon disclosure didn't prove extraterrestrials, but it did confirm something equally important. There are objects repeatedly appearing in restricted airspace, displaying capabilities that challenge our current understanding of physics, propulsion, and surveillance technology. Whether these things are black-budget military projects, foreign breakthrough systems, AI-driven reconnaissance platforms, or something genuinely beyond human origin, the mystery is very real. And according to officials themselves, the investigation is only beginning. So now I want to hear from you. What do you think these objects are? And what's the one case from this video that stuck with you the most? Drop your theories down below because I'll be reading through all of them. And if you want more deep dives into hidden government files, military mysteries, black projects, and the biggest unanswered questions on the internet, hit subscribe and turn notifications on. Because if another dump happens, trust me, you're going to want to be here for it. See you in the next one.